Hey guys, I have gotten a lot of requests to give a demo about how I make the performance headbands that I wear anytime I'm having a bad hair day or working in my studio or doing Tough Mudder and all of those kinds of things. And I wanted to share my how-to with you guys because I have bought these headbands in the past and they are really expensive. And you can make a ton of them for really, really inexpensive with just a few basic tools and save yourself a ton of money and be able to pick fabric patterns and colors that match outfits you wear constantly or your team colors or any of those kinds of things. I've made tons of these for my Tough Mudder teams. For every one, I make ones that match our team colors. And if we'd bought them, it would have cost several $100s, and it only cost me about $8 in material. So the first thing I'm going to let you know is that you are going to need the following stuff. You're going to need your fabric. Now, these are performance fabrics. You can find them in the fabric stores in the like dance and swim section. And I love the swim fabrics, but there are a lot of other fabrics that you can choose from. I've got this pattern fabric right here. If I remember correctly, it's approximately like 82% polyester, 18% spandex. The higher the spandex, I find, the better the fabric holds to your head and doesn't slide. The same with this one. This is just a plain performance black. Of all the colors I have, I did not have black, which was totally crazy to me. So I finally bought black. And another way that you can save money on these is to check the remnant spins when you go to the craft store, because you can find remnants for half off the regular price of the fabric. And here I got almost an entire yard. Now, this is not a performance fabric. It is 100% polyester, but since it was only, like, as you can see, the price was half of that. And if the fabric is on sale on the bolt, it's also on sale on the remnant. So I believe this price was actually even less because this fabric was on sale. So you'll need your fabric. I do recommend that you not try fabrics that have like the little tiny sequins or the little like glued on like reflective dots and stuff. They're hard to cut. They do not cut straight. The dots get all funky and have sharp edges when you cut them and stuff. That is not a fabric I like. I've never had good luck with it. So that's one thing that I would suggest you be aware of. You do only need a half of a yard of fabric. And out of a half of a yard of fabric, depending on the width of the fabric, I have gotten something like 18 or 20 headbands out of 1/2 yard of fabric. So you can do a lot with a 1/2 yard of fabric. You will also need a needle and thread. Is this not the most fabulous vintage sewing box ever? If you don't have a lot of sewing supplies and you don't have the money to start hoarding sewing supplies, do what I did. I actually got this vintage sewing box and most of what's inside of it at a thrift store for like $8. There's edging remnants. There were zippers, lace, needlepoint supplies, oodles and oodles of thread, needles, sewing pins, patterns. This thing had so much stuff in it. It was unbelievable. Will I use it all? No, probably not. But it did give me a very, very wide array of colors of thread. I mean, if you look, it's just filled. And there's 3 levels. So you can get sewing materials really cheap if you just check around and look. So needle and thread, I picked one that matches this fabric, but the thread you use does not have to match perfectly. Do not sweat it because you will not see it. So it really does not matter what color thread you use. If you don't have a thread that matches, it's fine. Nobody's going to see it. I have black that I pulled out for the black. There's an extra sewing needle just floating around. And then you're going to need a cutting mat. I actually have two of them. My computer is on another one. That one you can see has taken some wear and tear and some damage from all of the projects that I do. The back side of this one is covered in enamel and paint and all of that. This is the side I use for cutting. The other side I use is for projects. So this is my nice clean side to cut on. You will need a rotary cutter. I have two different kinds here. This one is the push kind where you push to have the blade come out and it locks. And then and it comes back in. This one is more like a pizza cutter where the blade comes out like this. And then you roll, push like this. So really, which one you use and which one you buy really just depends on your taste. They both work really well. I love both of them. They're both great. I pretty much use both of them equally. I am left-handed, so sometimes I have a little problem with some of the cutters. So sometimes one like a stick one is easier for me to use. The other thing that you will need is something to cut against to keep your fabric flat and taut. This fabric is very drapey and kind of clingy and always wants to sort of do its own thing. So having a flat piece to keep the part you're cutting off of flat and straight really makes a humongous difference. So there's just a shot of you on my table. It's a 6-foot plastic folding table in my studio, and that's the main thing I use. So I'm going to get my fabric all unfolded, and I'll show you where we go from there. Alrighty, everybody, I've got my fabric laid out. As you can see, you get quite a lot of fabric. It goes all the way off my table for a half a yard. Oh, another tip I forgot to mention is to make this project even cheaper. I go to Joann. That's the closest place to get these kinds of fabrics for me. It's a half-hour away, but it's the closest place. You can check their website. They always have coupons. And usually they're anywhere from 25% all the way to 60% off of a single cut of fabric. And that's what this is. It's a single cut of fabric. So this fabric was $16.99 and I got it 60% off. And I'm going to get 16, 18, 20 headbands depending on how wide I cut them. So you can get a really good deal that way. Hobby Lobby has coupons that they post. Michael's has coupons that they post. So any place you go to buy fabric, there are always coupons. So do yourself a favor and use them. Use them. It makes it so much cheaper. At the craft stores, not everybody knows how to cut this fabric. So you sometimes will get pieces that are just mangled and shredded on the edges. And if your piece is that way, you're going to want to straighten out those edges after you cut the widths so that you can more easily sew them together. With something like this, mine has some small issues, but the lady who cut this actually did a pretty good job considering what some other pieces I've gotten look like. So that is nothing to worry about. Nobody's going to see it. It's not an issue. But if it's really, really bad, just for your own ease of making these, you'll want to trim those edges. And you can also do that with the rotary cutter. So, the end of your fabric, once you get it all laid out, is going to have this terminal edge on it. As you can see right here, it's got printing, it's white. The other end is got the pattern on it, but it doesn't have the metallic, and it's got these little holes, guide holes in it from going through the machine being created. So you want to cut those off. That's going to be the first thing that we do. I'm going to set you right here. I am going to line up the board just a little smidge off of that end. And make sure you apply good pressure to this board so that the fabric underneath does not slide and you get a nice even cut. Just like that. And if it does catch a little on the end, you can always just go back and hit it with your roll cutter. Now, the next part is that we are going to start cutting out the individual pieces. And those individual pieces, I like mine to be 5 inches because I like a really wide headband. Now, not everybody likes a really wide headband. And the beauty of this is that you can cut them whatever width you like. The reason I like using this mat is because I can very easily find my width and cut this fabric with very little issue. It makes it nice and simple. So I'm going to cut 5 inches. A lot of people like 4-inch width ones. Some people like 3-inch width ones, or they just want to be able to just roll it into a little band. So whatever your choice is, you go for it. Often when I make these, if I'm making them for a group of people and not just myself or just for my retail booth, I will make 4-inch and 5-inch ones because you have people who like them different and want to wear them different. So I try to meet everybody's needs. So I'm going to find my 5-inch width mark. Make sure my fabric is all lined up. And go ahead and make my cut. Make sure you can always continue to apply downward pressure on this board. That really, really, really makes a huge difference in your fabric cutting. And there's our headband number 1. And I'm going to go and repeat this for the entire piece of fabric, and then I'll be back. Okay guys, so I got all of my fabric pieces cut. Oh, we're a little close. Let's see if I can pull back a little bit. There we go. Okay, I got all of my pieces cut. I actually ended up, since I cut them all at 5 inches, I got 11 out of this half yard of fabric. And the reason why I say get a half yard is because that width is pretty much perfect for the circumference of most people's heads. Because this fabric does have stretch to it, it allows it to be nice and stretchy and hold but not be too tight. So a half yard seems to be just about the right width from everything that I have done. So now comes the fun part. I'm going to show you guys how to fold and sew these. I have my needle and thread prepared, and I'm going to show you exactly what we do to get the nice tapered back on these. So I'm going to slide these away. I'm going to try to work. Oh, and to let you know, I did get this tiny little 2-inch piece as a remnant from that half yard. I actually save all of these from all the headbands I do, and then I make them into cat play toys that we use at the rescue that I volunteer for. So nothing goes to waste. Okay, so the first part of doing these is folding the right sides together. And since this was cut with scissors and not a rotary cutter on this end at the store, they won't line up super perfect exact, but close enough, and that's all you really need. So first fold them right sides together, and then you're going to take, I'm going to move you guys so I can kind of work and you can see from my angle. Maybe this will work. Okay, so we are working with right sides together, And I'm going to take the top layer and I'm going to fold both pieces in so that they are touching like this. And then I'm going to fold them in half again. So what you end up with facing you is one of the right sides, and it looks like this. Then you're going to take that and you're going to put it approximately one width of that away from the edge. And then you're going to take this other, the bottom, and you're going to fold it over this while still holding it. And then you're going to fold this piece back again, that same width of the piece. And then you're going to take this end and fold it over. And what you end up with is a whole bunch of sandwich layers. There we go. Now it's in focus. And now all we do is sew this bad boy together. Really basic stitch, nothing too fancy. So I've got my sandwich layers. I've got my needle and thread. I am left-handed, so this is going to look really strange to all of y'all, but all I'm going to do is start right here where those edges are just to keep them pinned down. Oh, my thread's got a knot in it. Hold, please. Okay, so I have pinned down those sides so that they're not going to run away on me. And now all I'm going to do is do a very basic stitch to hold all of these together. I go back and forth once. And then come back to where the knot is. And, whoops, there we go. And put a knot in, and then you're done. I will say you may want to add a couple of extra stitches on this end over here. Make sure you've got all these layers good and pinned together, and the same thing on this side over here, just to make sure you don't have a layer that pulls or slips out. So that's all I would do. I'm going to finish sewing this, and I'll come back and show you guys what it looks like. Okay guys, I am back and I have all my stitching done. As you can see, I purposely did not make this look really pretty. I am by no means the queen of hand sewing, but I wanted to make sure that you guys understood that you don't have to be intimidated by hand sewing a product or something you're going to wear. No one is going to see this. It doesn't really matter what it looks like. All that matters is that it works. And I know I'm going to get comments and questions. Why didn't you use a sewing machine? It would be so much faster. All those kinds of things. And sure, you can use a sewing machine. And I have used a sewing machine. But I wanted to show this as something that anyone can do, and not everybody has a sewing machine. And I actually had a hard time doing it with a sewing machine because it's so many layers. And the fabric is so slippery and has so much movement to it that often when I would go sewing it, it would all kind of like squish out under the foot. And so I actually found that it was less stressful and more enjoyable for me to hand sew these. So that's what I've chosen to do. And now you can see all I'm going to do is flip it right side out. And voila, you have a headband, and it has a tapered end. This sits down by your neck, the nape of your head. It's nice and wide at the top to hold all your hair down. I am going to post some photos at the end of this video and at the beginning that you guys would have probably already seen of me and my teammates and other people wearing these, so you guys can see exactly what they look like. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them. I always love to hear from viewers. All right, you guys, get crafting.